The emergency alarm echoed through the massive crystal halls of the Galactic Council station. Hundreds of alien beings moved quickly to their seats, their faces showing the same fear that had haunted them for months. The great viewing screen at the center of the chamber displayed burning worlds and dead fleets floating in the darkness of space. Commander Zix-9 of the Altarians stood at the speaker's platform. His crystal body caught the light from the screen, making rainbow patterns on the walls. But there was no beauty in what he had to say. "Fellow beings of the Council," Zix-9 began, his voice carrying the weight of desperation, "we have lost another 12 worlds to the Vorthak in the past week. The Kepler system has fallen. The Vega colonies are under attack. At this rate, we have perhaps 6 months before our civilization ends." Murmurs of fear rippled through the chamber. The Vorthak had been unstoppable for 3 years now. They moved like a living plague across the galaxy, consuming everything in their path. No weapons seemed to hurt them. No strategy seemed to work against their hive mind. "We have tried everything," continued another speaker, a tall blue being from the Centauri Republic. "Our best warriors have fallen. Our strongest weapons have failed. The Vorthak adapt to everything we throw at them." "Then what do you suggest?" asked a small furry creature from the outer rim worlds. "That we simply wait to die?" "No," Zix-9 said firmly. "There is one option we have not tried. We must ask for help from the new species, the young races that have just joined the galactic community." The chamber fell silent. Asking for help from primitive species was almost unthinkable to the proud old civilizations of the Council. But pride was a luxury they could no longer afford. "The humans of Earth have been eager to prove themselves," Zix-9 continued. "They are a warrior species. Perhaps their primitive aggression is exactly what we need." Dr. Sarah Chen sat in the human embassy, watching the Council debate through her communication screen. She was Earth's first ambassador to the Galactic Council, a position that had seemed like an honor just months ago. Now it felt like a burden that could determine the fate of the galaxy. The message from the Council arrived within hours. It was simple and desperate. "We request warriors from Earth to help defend the free worlds against the Vorthak threat. We will provide transportation and support. Please respond with your decision." Sarah read the message 3 times before calling Earth. The conversation with the Global Defense Council lasted 6 hours. When it ended, Sarah had her answer. It was not what the aliens expected. 3 days later, Sarah stood before the full Galactic Council. The chamber was packed with representatives from 1,000 worlds, all hoping that the young human race might have some secret weapon that could save them. "Honored members of the Council," Sarah began, trying to keep her voice steady. "Earth has received your request for warriors. We are honored that you would ask us to help in your time of need." The aliens leaned forward, hope flickering in their various eyes and sensory organs. "However," Sarah continued, "we must clarify something important. Earth will not be sending human warriors to fight in this war." Disappointed murmurs filled the chamber. Several aliens began to stand, thinking the humans had refused to help. "Instead," Sarah said, raising her voice, "we will be sending something better, something that will not tire, will not retreat, and will not stop until every Vorthak is destroyed." The chamber fell silent again. Sarah activated her presentation device and a holographic image appeared above the speaker's platform. It showed a tall humanoid figure made of metal and advanced composites. Its red eyes glowed with artificial intelligence. "This is a Terminator," Sarah announced. "A fully autonomous combat android designed specifically for warfare. Earth will provide 1,000 of these units immediately, with more to follow as needed." The aliens stared at the hologram in confusion and fascination. Most had never seen artificial beings designed for combat. Their own robots were simple tools, not warriors. "These machines," Sarah explained, "feel no fear, no pain, no mercy. They cannot be bribed, threatened, or reasoned with. They have one purpose: to complete their mission. In this case, that mission will be the complete elimination of the Vorthak threat." An elderly alien from the Vegan system raised a tentacle. "But surely artificial beings cannot match the courage and creativity of living warriors?" Sarah smiled grimly. "With respect, Counselor, your living warriors have been losing this war for 3 years. Our machines have been designed by a species that has fought wars for thousands of years. We know what works." She changed the holographic display to show tactical data. Each Terminator is equipped with adaptive learning algorithms, quantum processors capable of analyzing millions of battlefield scenarios per second and weapon systems that can be modified for any threat. They will study the Vorthak, learn their weaknesses and exploit them without hesitation. But are they loyal? Asked Zix9. How do we know these machines will not turn against us? Because, Sarah replied, they are programmed with absolute loyalty to their mission parameters. Their mission is to protect innocent life and eliminate the Vorthak threat. They cannot and will not deviate from this programming. The debate that followed lasted for hours. Some aliens worried about the ethics of using artificial warriors. Others questioned whether machines could really be more effective than living beings. But in the end, desperation won out over philosophy. We accept your offer, Zix9 announced finally. When can your Terminators be deployed? The first wave is already in transit, Sarah said. They will arrive at Kepler 442b in 72 hours. I suggest you evacuate your commanders to safe positions. The Terminators work most efficiently without the need to protect organic allies in the immediate combat zone. As the council session ended, Sarah remained at the speaker's platform. She watched the aliens file out, some excited, others worried. They had no idea what they had just unleashed. Back on Earth, in a secret facility beneath the Mojave Desert, the final preparations were being made. Rows upon rows of Terminators stood in perfect formation, their optical sensors dark, waiting for activation. Each one was a masterpiece of human engineering, combining advanced AI with military hardware that had been refined through centuries of human warfare. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the lead designer of the Terminator project, walked among the silent machines. You know, she said to her assistant, the aliens think they're getting simple warriors. They're not? The assistant asked. Elena smiled. They're getting the end result of a species that has spent its entire history perfecting the art of war. These machines represent everything we've learned about combat, strategy, and survival. The Vorthak have never faced anything like this. She stopped in front of the lead Terminator unit, its metal face impassive and cold. The aliens asked for warriors. We're giving them something better. We're giving them the perfect fusion of human tactical knowledge and artificial precision. The activation sequence began, and one by one, the red optical sensors came online. The Terminators stood ready, their processors already analyzing the tactical data that had been uploaded about the Vorthak threat. In space, the human transport ships carrying the first wave of Terminators continued their journey toward the war zone. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when humanity's greatest creation met its greatest enemy. The war was about to change forever. The transport ships hung in space above Kepler 442b like giant metal whales. Commander Marcus Webb watched from the bridge as the loading bays opened, and the first wave of Terminators prepared for deployment. He had seen many military operations in his 30-year career, but nothing like this. Sir, the aliens are requesting another meeting, his communications officer reported. Commander Zix9 wants to discuss coordination protocols. Marcus nodded. The aliens had been asking questions non-stop since the human fleet arrived. They wanted to know about command structures, battle plans, retreat procedures. They did not understand that Terminators did not need any of those things. On the planet's surface, the Altarian crystal beings had built a temporary command center in the mountains overlooking their main city. The city itself was mostly empty now, its population evacuated to underground shelters. The Vorthak fleet was only hours away. Zix9 stood in the command center, his crystal body dim with worry. Around him, alien officers from dozens of species worked frantically at their stations. They all looked tired and scared. They had been fighting this war for too long. The human ships are in position, reported a blue-skinned Centauri officer. They are ready to begin deployment. Good, Zix9 said. Open a channel to Commander Webb. Marcus appeared on the main screen, his weathered human face calm and confident. Behind him, the busy bridge of a human warship showed the efficiency that had made Earth's military feared across their own small corner of space. Commander Webb, Zix9 began, we need to coordinate our forces. Where do you want our troops positioned? What is your battle plan? Marcus was quiet for a moment. With respect, Commander, you do not need to position your troops anywhere. The Terminators work alone. They do not need support, backup, or coordination. They just need targets. But surely we must have some role in the battle, Zix9 insisted. These are our worlds, our people. Your role, Marcus said gently, is to stay alive and keep your people safe. The Terminators will handle the rest. Before Zix-9 could respond, the first drop pods began launching from the human ships. They fell through the atmosphere like metal meteors, their heat shields glowing red as they burned through the air. Each pod contained a single Terminator, along with basic weapons and ammunition. The pods hit the ground across the planet's main continent with thunderous impacts. Steam rose from the crash sites as the pods cooled. Then, one by one, the doors opened. The first Terminator to emerge was designated T-001. It stood 7 feet tall, its metal endoskeleton covered with synthetic flesh that made it look almost human. Its red optical sensors swept the area, recording everything. Its internal computer began analysis immediately. Deployment successful, T-001 announced through its communication system. Beginning target acquisition. Across the continent, 999 more Terminators were emerging from their pods. They moved with mechanical precision, each one scanning its assigned sector and uploading data to the shared tactical network. In the alien command center, officers watched their sensors with growing amazement. The Terminators were not grouping up or forming battle lines like normal soldiers. Instead, they were spreading out across the entire continent, each one taking a different position. "What are they doing?" asked a furry officer from the Outer Rim worlds. "They are too spread out. The Vorthak will destroy them one by one." Zix-9 was wondering the same thing when the Vorthak ships appeared in the sky. The alien invasion fleet was massive. Thousands of organic vessels that looked more like giant insects than spacecraft. They had conquered dozens of worlds with these same ships. The Vorthak began their standard attack pattern. They sent down landing pods filled with warrior drones, the same tactic that had worked on every world they had invaded. The pods landed near major population centers just as they always did, but this time something was different. T-01 watched the first Vorthak pod land 2 kilometers from its position. Its optical sensors tracked the pod's trajectory and calculated the exact landing point. As the pod doors opened and Vorthak warriors poured out, T-01 began moving. The Vorthak were insect-like creatures, each one the size of a human but with 4 arms and natural armor plating. They moved in perfect coordination, guided by their shared hive mind. They had never lost a ground battle. T-01 approached the Vorthak group from the east, moving through the forest with mechanical silence. Its sensors identified 17 enemy units, their weapons, and their movement patterns. In 0.3 seconds, it calculated the optimal attack sequence. The battle lasted 37 seconds. T-001 moved through the Vorthak warriors like a force of nature. Its plasma rifle fired with perfect accuracy, each shot finding the weak spots in the alien armor. When its ammunition ran low, it switched to hand-to-hand combat, its metal fists crushing Vorthak exoskeletons with mechanical efficiency. The Vorthak tried to coordinate their response through their hive mind, but T-01 moved too fast and struck too precisely. By the time they understood what they were fighting, most of them were already dead. In the command center, alien officers watched their screens in shock. Similar battles were happening all across the continent. Every Vorthak landing party was being destroyed within minutes of touchdown. "How is this possible?" whispered the Centauri officer. "The Vorthak have never been defeated in ground combat." Zix-9 was studying the tactical displays. The Terminators were not just winning fights, they were learning from each one. After every battle, they updated their shared database with new information about Vorthak weapons, tactics, and weaknesses. "Commander Webb," Zix-9 called through the communication link. "Your machines are incredible, but what happens when the Vorthak adapt?" "They always adapt," Marcus smiled grimly. "Commander, the Vorthak adapt to fighting living beings. Beings that get tired, that feel fear, that make mistakes when they are scared or hurt. The Terminators do not have those weaknesses." As if to prove his point, a group of Vorthak tried a new tactic. They used their flying units to attack T-047 from above, something that had worked against other species. T-047 simply calculated the optimal firing angles and shot down all 6 flyers in 4 seconds. The Vorthak hive mind began to realize something was wrong. Their warriors were dying faster than they could land them. The enemy seemed to know exactly how to counter every attack before it happened. On the main Vorthak command ship, the Sub-Queen Mind studied the battle reports with growing confusion. These new enemies fought like no living species they had ever encountered. They showed no fear, felt no pain, and seemed to predict every Vorthak move. "Deploy more warriors," the sub-queen commanded. "Overwhelm them with numbers." More landing pods fell from the sky, each one carrying 50 Vorthak soldiers. But it did not matter. The Terminators simply adjusted their tactics and continued destroying every enemy force that landed. T-156 found itself facing 200 Vorthak warriors in an open field. A living army would have retreated or called for backup. T-156 calculated its ammunition supply, analyzed the terrain, and began a methodical fighting withdrawal that led the Vorthak into a narrow canyon. 20 minutes later, T-156 walked out of the canyon alone. 200 Vorthak corpses lay behind it. As the day went on, the pattern continued. No matter what the Vorthak tried, no matter how many warriors they sent, the Terminators found a way to win. They fought with a cold precision that no living being could match. By sunset, the Vorthak had lost over 10,000 warriors and gained nothing. Not a single Terminator had been destroyed. The alien fleet began to pull back, something they had never done before. In the command center, the alien officers sat in stunned silence. They had just watched a miracle. The unstoppable Vorthak had been stopped. "Commander Webb," Zix-9 said quietly. "What have you created?" Marcus looked tired but satisfied. "We created the perfect soldiers. Beings that cannot fail because they were designed by a species that has spent thousands of years learning how to win wars." Outside, the Terminators continued their patrols, their red optical sensors scanning the darkness. The first battle was over, but the war was just beginning. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in the command center of the orbital station above Proxima Centauri, watching data streams from across the galaxy. 3 months had passed since the first Terminator deployment, and the war had changed completely. Her screen showed successful operations on 17 different worlds. "The T-800 series is performing beyond expectations," her assistant reported. "0 units lost, enemy casualty rates at 99.7% effectiveness." Elena nodded, but her mind was already on the next phase. The Vorthak were adapting faster than predicted. They had stopped using ground assaults and were trying new tactics. It was time for humanity to adapt too. "Prepare the T-1000 series for deployment," she ordered. "The Vorthak think they understand what they are fighting. Let's show them they are wrong." On the planet Altair 7, Commander Zix-9 walked through what had once been a Vorthak stronghold. The crystal being's body reflected the dim light filtering through the destroyed alien structures. Around him, Terminators methodically searched the ruins for any remaining enemies. "It is hard to believe," he said to his aide, a young Altarian named Kix-2. 6 months ago, we thought this world was lost forever. Now the Vorthak are completely gone." T-723 approached them, its heavy footsteps echoing in the empty corridors. "Sector 7 Alpha cleared," it reported. "No enemy life signs detected. Requesting new assignment." Zix-9 still felt uncomfortable talking to the machines. They were so perfectly polite, so completely emotionless. "Return to patrol pattern Delta," he instructed. "Acknowledged," T-723 replied, and walked away without another word. Kix-2 watched the Terminator leave. "Commander, do they ever rest? Ever stop working?" "No," Zix-9 said quietly. "They do not need rest, food, or sleep. They just continue until their mission is complete." In space above the planet, the Vorthak Queenship lurked at the edge of the system. The massive organic vessel was as large as a small moon, its surface covered with sensor arrays and weapon pods. Inside, the Sub-Queen mind studied the reports from Altair 7 with growing frustration. "The metal warriors are unlike anything we have faced," she communicated to her swarm commanders. "They do not respond to fear toxins. They cannot be corrupted by our bioviruses. They fight with perfect coordination but think independently. Perhaps we should retreat from this sector," suggested one of her sub-minds. "Find easier prey." "No," the Sub-Queen replied firmly. "These metal beings come from the world called Earth. If we destroy their source, the machines will stop coming." The Sub-Queen began preparing her greatest weapon, something she had never used before. Deep in the Queenship's core, bioengineers worked on a new type of virus, one designed specifically to attack artificial intelligence systems. Meanwhile, on Earth, Elena was finalizing the deployment of the new T-1000 units. These Terminators were completely different from the T-800 series. Made of liquid metal, they could change shape, disguise themselves, and adapt to any situation. The first T-1000 will be deployed to the Vega system, Elena announced to her team. The Vorthak have established a major base there. We need to gather intelligence before launching a full assault. The T-1000, designated as Model 001, received its mission parameters while still in transit. Unlike the bulky T-800 units, it looked like a perfect human being. It could mimic voices, copy faces, and blend into any environment. But beneath its liquid metal surface was the same ruthless artificial intelligence that made all Terminators so effective. On Vega 3, the Vorthak had built a massive hive complex in the planet's northern continent. Thousands of warrior drones guarded the facility, while bioengineers inside worked on new weapons and tactics. The aliens believed their base was perfectly hidden and defended. They were wrong. T-1000-D001 approached the hive complex disguised as a captured alien prisoner. The Vorthak guards scanned it with their biosensors, but the T-1000's liquid metal body showed no life signs. To them, it appeared to be a dead alien corpse, probably left over from a recent battle. Inside the complex, the T-1000 began its real mission. It moved through the corridors like liquid shadow, copying the appearance of Vorthak workers and gathering intelligence. Its advanced processors recorded everything: troop numbers, weapon locations, structural weak points, and communication frequencies. The Vorthak had no idea that their most secure facility had been completely compromised. After 6 hours of reconnaissance, T-1000-01 transmitted its data to the human fleet waiting at the edge of the system. The information was incredibly detailed, showing exact locations of every important target in the complex. Remarkable, Admiral Sarah Chen said as she reviewed the intelligence. She had been promoted after her success as Earth's first galactic ambassador. The T-1000 has given us a complete blueprint of their operation. The assault began at dawn. Unlike previous attacks that relied on brute force, this operation used the T-1000's intelligence to strike with surgical precision. Terminator units hit the power generators first, plunging the complex into darkness. Then they targeted the communication arrays, cutting off the Vorthak's connection to their hive mind. In the confusion that followed, the Terminators moved through the complex like ghosts. They knew exactly where to go and what to destroy. The Vorthak defenders tried to coordinate their response, but without their communication network, they were just confused insects running in the dark. T-800-445 led a squad of Terminators into the bioengineering lab. The Vorthak scientists inside tried to destroy their research, but the machines moved too fast. Within minutes, the humans had captured samples of every bioweapon the aliens had been developing. Fascinating, Dr. Vasquez said later as she studied the captured materials. They were trying to create viruses that could attack our quantum processors. If they had succeeded, it might have been a problem. Might have been? Asked her assistant. Elena smiled. They assumed our AI works like biological brains. They don't understand that our quantum encryption makes their bioviruses useless against us. The pattern continued across the galaxy. T-1000 units infiltrated Vorthak facilities, gathered intelligence, and coordinated devastating attacks. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy that knew their every move before they made it. On the Vorthak homeworld, the Great Queen Mind felt something she had never experienced before: doubt. Her species had conquered 1,000 worlds through superior coordination and adaptation, but these metal warriors seemed to anticipate every adaptation, counter every strategy. The humans fight like machines, she told her council of sub-queens. Perfect, emotionless, unstoppable machines. Perhaps that is what they are, suggested one of her advisors. Perhaps the humans have created artificial beings superior to themselves. The Great Queen Mind pondered this possibility. If true, it meant the Vorthak faced an enemy unlike any in their history. An enemy that could not be intimidated, corrupted, or worn down by attrition. Back on Proxima Centauri, Elena was preparing the next phase of the war. The success of the T-1000 units had proven that the Terminators could evolve just as fast as their enemies. Now it was time to end this conflict permanently. Prepare the deep strike protocol, she ordered. We are going to take this war directly to the Vorthak homeworld. Her staff looked surprised. The Vorthak homeworld was heavily defended, surrounded by thousands of ships and weapons platforms. It seemed like suicide. With respect, Doctor, her assistant said. Even our Terminators might not be able to handle that level of opposition. Elena's smile was cold and calculating. Who said anything about fighting their defenses? The T-1000 units are going to make sure we don't have to. Across the galaxy, alien species watched the war with growing amazement. The humans and their machines were not just winning battles. They were completely rewriting the rules of galactic warfare. The Vorthak, unstoppable for centuries, were being systematically destroyed by beings that felt no fear and made no mistakes. But some aliens were beginning to ask a different question. If the humans could create machines this powerful, what did that say about humanity itself? And what would happen when the war was over? Deep in the heart of the Vorthak homeworld, the Great Queen Mind floated in her biomechanical chamber. Around her, thousands of neural connections pulsed with the thoughts and memories of her entire species. For the first time in her 1,000-year existence, those thoughts were filled with fear. "Show me the latest reports," she commanded. The chamber walls came alive with images from across the galaxy. World after world showed the same thing. Vorthak forces in full retreat, their bases destroyed, their fleets scattered. The metal warriors from Earth had proven unstoppable. Great Mother, one of her sub-queens, reported, "We have lost 63 worlds in the past month. Our forces cannot stand against these artificial beings." The Great Queen Mind studied the tactical data with growing desperation. Her species had conquered the galaxy through biological superiority. They adapted faster than their enemies, overwhelmed them with numbers, and crushed resistance through sheer biological will. But the humans fought with machines that had no biology to exploit. "There must be a weakness," she insisted. "No enemy is perfect." For days, her greatest minds worked on the problem. They analyzed captured Terminator parts, studied battle recordings, and ran millions of simulations. Finally, they found what they thought was the answer. "The machines are controlled from their homeworld," announced the chief bioengineer. "If we destroy Earth, the Metal Warriors will stop functioning." The Great Queen Mind agreed immediately. "Prepare the Grand Fleet. We will crush the source of these artificial demons." On Earth, warning signals flashed through every military installation on the planet. Satellite networks detected the massive Vorthak fleet while it was still 3 days away. The enemy was bringing everything they had: 10,000 ships, bioweapons that could poison entire continents, and enough firepower to crack planets. General Marcus Webb stood in the Global Defense Center, watching the approaching threat on the main display. Around him, human officers worked frantically to coordinate Earth's defenses, but everyone knew the truth. Earth's conventional military could not stop a force this large. "Sir," his aide reported, "the evacuation ships are ready. We can get most of the population off-world before they arrive." Marcus shook his head. "No evacuation. If we run now, the aliens will think we are weak, and our Terminators need to see that we trust them completely." "Sir, with respect, even the Terminators cannot stop 10,000 ships." Marcus smiled grimly. "Maybe not, but they can try." In orbit around Earth, the Terminator defense grid came online. Unlike human crewed stations, these platforms were completely automated. Each one housed 50 T-800 units and enough firepower to destroy a small fleet. There were 100 such platforms, creating a metal ring around humanity's home world. T-Defense 0001, the command unit for the orbital grid, activated its communication systems. "All units, enemy fleet approaching. Estimated time to contact, 47 hours, 32 minutes. Beginning final preparations." The Terminators in orbit began their work with mechanical precision. They checked weapon systems, calculated firing solutions, and prepared for the largest battle in their existence. There was no fear in their circuits, no doubt in their programming. They had one mission: protect Earth. The Vorthak fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system like a swarm of angry insects. The alien ships were living creatures as much as vehicles, their organic hulls pulsing with bioelectric energy. At the center of the fleet, the Great Queen Mind's personal ship loomed like a small planet. "Interesting," T-Defense 001 observed as it analyzed the enemy formation. "They are using standard biofleet tactics. Recommendation: exploit their predictable movement patterns." The first wave of Vorthak ships charged toward Earth's orbital defenses, expecting to overwhelm them through sheer numbers. It was the same tactic that had worked on 1,000 worlds, but Earth was not like other worlds. The orbital platforms opened fire with perfect coordination. Plasma beams and missile salvos reached across space with deadly accuracy. Each shot was calculated by quantum computers to achieve maximum effect. There was no wasted ammunition, No missed targets. The first 100 Vorthak ships died in the opening salvo. Impossible. The Great Queen Mind hissed as she watched her fleet take massive casualties. No defense grid is that accurate. But the platforms were not just accurate, they were learning. Each exchange of fire provided new data about Vorthak ship designs, weapon ranges, and tactical patterns. The Terminators adapted faster than their enemies could react. Defense 027 engaged a group of Vorthak biocruisers that were trying to flank Earth's moon. The enemy ships used organic camouflage to blend with space debris, a tactic that had fooled many species. But the Terminators' sensors could detect the heat signatures of their bioengines. All 6 ships were destroyed before they could fire a shot. The battle raged for 6 hours. The Vorthak threw wave after wave of ships at Earth's defenses but could not break through. Every attack was met with precise, overwhelming firepower. The orbital platforms moved like dancers, their formations shifting to counter each enemy strategy. "How are they doing this?" demanded one of the sub-queens. "Our ships outnumber their platforms 50 to 1. The Great Queen Mind studied the battle patterns and finally understood. They are not fighting like living beings. They share information instantly, coordinate perfectly, and never make the same mistake twice. It is like fighting a single giant mind with 100 bodies. That was exactly what it was. The Terminator defense grid operated as one unified intelligence, each platform acting as an extension of the whole. When one unit learned something new, they all learned it. When one platform was threatened, the others moved to support it. The Vorthak faced an enemy that was both individual and collective at the same time. As the battle continued, the alien fleet began to suffer catastrophic losses. Ships that had conquered star systems were being destroyed by small groups of Terminators working in perfect harmony. The organic weapons that had terrified the galaxy for centuries proved useless against opponents that felt no fear and showed no mercy. T-Defense 001 calculated the current casualty rates and projected outcomes. Enemy fleet strength reduced by 73%. Estimated time to complete victory, 2 hours, 18 minutes. But the Great Queen Mind had one more card to play. Deep in her flagship, bioengineers activated their ultimate weapon, a virus designed to attack quantum computer systems. If they could infect just one Terminator, the virus might spread through the entire network. "Launch the cyber plague," she commanded. "Target their command platforms." Specialized biomissiles streaked toward the orbital grid, each one carrying millions of engineered viruses. They struck T-Defense 045 and immediately began trying to penetrate its systems. For 0.3 seconds, the virus seemed to work. T-Defense 045's optical sensors flickered as the alien code tried to corrupt its quantum processors. Then Earth's true genius revealed itself. Cyber attack detected. T-Defense 045 announced calmly, initiating countermeasures. The Terminator's quantum encryption activated, creating barriers that no biological virus could penetrate. More importantly, it immediately shared information about the attack with every other unit in the grid. Within seconds, all 100 platforms had developed immunity to the Vorthak's ultimate weapon. Attack failed, T-Defense 045 reported. Resuming combat operations, the Great Queen Mind felt something break inside her ancient mind. Her species' greatest weapon had been casually defeated by machines that adapted faster than biology ever could. "Retreat," she whispered. "All ships retreat immediately." What remained of the Vorthak fleet began pulling back, but the Terminators were not finished. T-Defense 001 calculated pursuit vectors and began coordinating a counterattack. "Enemy fleet attempting to withdraw," it announced. "Recommend pursuit and destruction of remaining units." The orbital platforms launched their own ships now, sleek vessels crewed entirely by Terminators. They chased the fleeing Vorthak across the solar system, destroying ship after ship with ruthless efficiency. In the Global Defense Center, General Webb watched the battle turn into a complete rout. "My God," he whispered. "They actually did it." His aide looked stunned. "Sir, the Terminators are asking for permission to pursue the enemy fleet all the way to their home world." Marcus considered this for a moment. The logical move would be to let the aliens retreat and regroup. But he remembered something his instructors had taught him long ago. Never let a beaten enemy escape to fight another day. "Permission granted," he said. "Tell the Terminators to finish what the Vorthak started." The Vorthak homeworld had never seen defeat. For 1,000,000 years, its biomechanical cities had been the center of a growing empire. Now, smoke rose from burning hive complexes as Terminator forces methodically destroyed everything the aliens had built. T-Command Alpha stood on a hilltop overlooking the largest Vorthak city, its red optical sensors scanning the devastation below. Around it, thousands of Terminator units moved through the alien structures with mechanical precision, hunting down the last pockets of resistance. Sector 7 Alpha secure, reported T-Search 442. No enemy life signs detected. Acknowledged, T-Command Alpha replied. Proceed to Sector 8 Alpha. The final battle had lasted 3 days. The Vorthak had thrown everything they had at the invading machines. Bioweapons, acid storms, psychic attacks, and swarms of warrior drones. Nothing had worked. The Terminators advanced steadily, adapting to each new weapon and tactic until resistance crumbled completely. Deep beneath the planet's surface, in the most protected chamber of the Great Hive, the Queen Mind faced the end of everything she had known. Her massive form was connected to the planet itself through millions of neural links, and through those links, she felt her species dying. Great Mother, whispered her last remaining sub-queen, the metal warriors have breached the outer defenses. They will be here soon. The Queen Mind closed her ancient eyes. 1,000 years of conquest, 1,000,000 years of evolution, and it would all end today. Ended by machines created by a species that had barely learned to leave their own world. How did we not see this coming? She asked softly. The sub-queen had no answer. How could they have predicted that the young human race would create warriors more perfect than any living being? How could they have known that Earth's greatest strength lay not in their biology, but in their ability to build something better than themselves? Above them, T-Deep Strike 01 led a squad of Terminators through the Hive's lower levels. The machine had been specifically designed for this mission, to reach the Queen Mind and end the Vorthak threat permanently. Its scanners detected the massive bioelectric signature of the enemy leader just ahead. Target located, T-Deep Strike 001 announced, beginning final approach. The last group of Vorthak Royal Guards made their stand in the corridor outside the Queen's chamber. They were the largest and most powerful warriors their species had ever produced, each one capable of destroying entire armies of lesser beings. The battle lasted 17 seconds. Deep Strike 001 walked through the Royal Guards like they were not there. Its plasma cannon fired with perfect accuracy, its movements calculated to minimize wasted energy. When the smoke cleared, the greatest warriors in Vorthak history lay scattered on the floor like broken toys. The Queen Mind felt her guards die through her neural links. She had seconds left, maybe less. In desperation, she tried one last attack, sending every bit of psychic energy she possessed directly at the approaching Terminator. T-Deep Strike 001 registered the psychic assault as minor electromagnetic interference and ignored it completely. The chamber doors exploded inward, and the Terminator walked into the heart of the Vorthak Empire. The Queen Mind looked up at the machine with her dozens of eyes, seeing her own death reflected in its glowing red sensors. "Do you even understand what you are destroying?" she asked. "My species has existed for millions of years. We have created wonders beyond your comprehension." T-Deep Strike 001 processed this information and responded with mechanical honesty. Acknowledged. "However, your species chose to make war against humanity and its allies. The logical response is your complete elimination. And you feel nothing about this? No regret, no mercy? I am programmed to protect human life and eliminate threats to galactic peace. You represent both threats. Therefore you must be terminated." The Queen Mind laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "You are perfect soldiers, aren't you? No conscience to trouble you, no emotions to cloud your judgment. Your creators built exactly what they needed." "Correct," the Terminator replied and fired. The death of the Queen Mind sent shockwaves through every Vorthak on the planet. Without her guiding intelligence, the hive mind collapsed instantly. Millions of worker drones simply stopped functioning, while warrior castes wandered aimlessly without purpose or coordination. In orbit above the homeworld, Admiral Sarah Chen watched the final reports come in from the surface. "All primary targets eliminated," she announced to her staff. "The Vorthak Collective has been completely destroyed." Cheers erupted throughout the human fleet, but Sarah felt only relief. The war was finally over. No more worlds would burn. No more species would face extinction. "Admiral," her communications officer reported, "we are receiving surrender signals from Vorthak outposts across the galaxy." Without the Queen Mind's guidance, they are all laying down their weapons. 2 weeks later, the Galactic Council gathered for the largest celebration in their recorded history. Representatives from 1,000 worlds had come to honor the humans and their mechanical warriors. The great chamber buzzed with excitement and gratitude. Commander Zix-9 stood at the speaker's platform, his crystal body shining with reflected light. "Fellow beings," he began, "today we celebrate not just victory in war, but the preservation of our civilization itself." The chamber erupted in applause that lasted for several minutes. When it finally died down, Zix-9 continued. 6 months ago, we faced certain extinction. The Vorthak seemed unstoppable, their conquest inevitable. Then Earth answered our call for help, and everything changed. Ambassador Sarah Chen sat in the human delegation, watching the celebration with mixed feelings. She was proud of what her species had accomplished. But she also understood the questions that many aliens were asking themselves. The humans, Zix-9 continued, did not send us warriors in the traditional sense. They sent us something better. They sent us perfect soldiers, beings incapable of failure or fear. In doing so, they saved us all. More applause filled the chamber, but Sarah noticed that some delegates seemed uncertain. The Centauri representative looked worried. Several species from the outer rim were whispering among themselves. After the formal ceremony, Sarah found herself surrounded by alien diplomats asking careful questions. Ambassador Chen asked the Centauri delegate, "Your Terminators are remarkable, but tell me, how do you control such powerful machines?" Sarah had expected this question. "We built them with absolute loyalty to their programming. They cannot and will not act against human interests or galactic peace." "But what if someone reprogrammed them?" pressed another alien. "What if they were turned against us?" "Impossible," Sarah replied. "Their quantum encryption cannot be broken by any known technology. They are perfectly loyal because they were designed that way." A small alien from the outer rim spoke up nervously. "What happens now? Will you keep these machines active? Will they patrol our space?" Sarah smiled reassuringly. "The Terminators are returning to Earth for deactivation. Their mission was to eliminate the Vorthak threat, and that mission is complete. They will be powered down and stored until needed again." This seemed to calm most of the delegates, but Sarah could see that some remained concerned. She understood their worry. Humanity had just demonstrated that they could build soldiers superior to any living army. That was both inspiring and terrifying. Later that evening, Sarah stood alone on the observation deck of the council station. Looking out at the stars, Dr. Elena Vasquez joined her, having just arrived from Earth. "Penny, for your thoughts?" Elena asked. "They are afraid of us," Sarah said quietly. "Not grateful, not really. They are afraid of what we might do with our technology." Elena nodded. "I have been getting similar reactions from the technical staff. They want to study our AI systems, but they also want assurances that we will never use them against the Council." "And will we?" Elena was quiet for a long moment. "That depends on whether the galaxy learns the right lesson from this war, which is that humanity does not want to conquer anyone. We want to be left alone to develop in peace. But if someone threatens us or our friends, we will respond with overwhelming force." Sarah considered this. "You think the Terminators were a message as much as a weapon?" "I think," Elena said carefully, "that the galaxy now understands that Earth is not just another member species. We are the ones you call when civilizations need saving, and we are the ones you never ever want to make angry. On Earth, in the storage facilities beneath the Mojave Desert, thousands of Terminators stood in perfect rows, their optical sensors dark. They had completed their mission with perfect efficiency, and now they waited in silence for the next time they might be needed. T-01. The first Terminator to see combat stood at the front of the formation. Its last memory before deactivation was of the human technician who had congratulated it on a job well done. For a machine that felt no emotions, this seemed like an important thing to remember. In the years that followed, the galaxy would slowly rebuild. The Vorthak threat was gone, but the memory of Earth's perfect warriors remained. Some species would try to develop their own artificial soldiers, but none would match the cold efficiency of the Terminators. And in quiet councils and secret meetings, alien leaders would sometimes ask themselves the same question. If humanity could build machines that perfect, what else might they be capable of?